Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload. Before we jump on into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button. Takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload, shall we? All right, everybody. Tonight I have a guest who I did share his encounter with you that he had with his dad, just real rough. He wishes to remain anonymous because of where he lives, and he doesn't want people to ridicule him, so we're just going to leave him anonymous. But he is from Tennessee. I'm not going to share where because he doesn't really feel like sharing where. But he's got a couple of things that he wants to share with us. So thank you for coming on. I appreciate you taking some time out of your night to share your experiences with us. How are you tonight?
I'm good. A little nervous, but good.
No worries. It's just me and you right now. So, I guess me and you had spoken for a little while prior, and you wanted to just jump into the experience that you and your dad had. Can you kind of paint a picture of, what you and your dad's relationship was like, and then get into that story so people understand, hey, I was a young kid and I had a firearm.
I got you. Yeah, well, when I was growing up, my whole life, I grew up hunting and in the woods, fishing, daylight till dark, camped out. I mean, just basically lived in the woods as much as possible. I've never been married, had kids. I've always stayed in the woods or on the water. And growing up, I mean, my daddy trained me that way. And getting to the story, I was probably in the early 90s. I was probably 10, 11 years old. And me and my daddy is in the Mississippi-Tennessee state line. There's the old swampy river bottom that runs through there. And everybody, all the locals, I was living in northern Mississippi around the Tennessee line at this time, but all the locals from our area, like me and Daddy, we had a little flat bottom fishing boat, and we keep it on our truck, and we would go, like anytime, 2 or 3 nights a week after we get off of work, we go fish for, go find a hole to put in and, go bass fishing or whatever. Well, we had to getting at it. We just had this boat on top of the truck all the time. Well, of course, everybody had their jokes and stuff about it. And my dad was a preacher, so going to church and stuff, like on Wednesday nights with the boat on top of your truck, and stuff. Anyways, everybody just joked about it and stuff. Well, I'm going to and trying to hit all the angles of this.
Yeah.
Is like,
calm down. Take your time. It's all right. It's really okay. You're not in a rush or anything. You're doing good. I can tell you're nervous. So relax, brother. It's all right.
Well, back everybody started coming to us, in like this one summer, and in that bottom area out there, it's like the most secluded place in this area. They were finding like all these rituals. And like I said, I've tried to research it, and I ask one part of me telling this story is I'm trying to figure out if there's anyone that can verify some of this is like, but they would find like groups of 10, 15, 20 domestic animals, and they were saying they were having satanic kids were doing satanic rituals and they were all dead, but none of the animals ever had any mutilation. I mean, other than just being mutilated, there was no like physically tied in the trees or like, physically a human did it. But they were finding all these sites all through that bottom, and they were, advising all the people, like, hey, don't go out, Well, all the people at the church, they knew me and Daddy went through that bottom all the time fishing. It was a lot of the swamp and holes up and through there. So they kept, they kept coming to Daddy telling us, and, I'd hear them talking and be like, y'all need to be careful when y'all are riding around back there, and, always take a gun and blah, 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 this and that. So, of course, we didn't think that much of it. Daddy, like I said, we don't ever, ponder on that. You just live life and try to live right and not think about stuff like that. So, but be prepared.
Right.
And in saying that, at this point, I'm 10 or 11 years old. So I have a little Ruger SP-101, a little 38. And my daddy had a 357 Smith & Wesson. And he always carried it. And in his back pocket, when we go on all them slough hunting, fishing, we would hunt and shoot snakes and turtles, just whatever, and we carry wad cutters for that. So we had, most of our guns had wad cutters in them, but like I said, he had a back pocket that had a cylinder worth of 357s in it, and I had a little speed loader with 38 hollow points in it, and we always carried them in case we saw a coyote or something of that nature, just to have a high-powered round with us, just for that type of stuff. Well, we went and put in that bottom, and it wasn't on purpose. It was just where we'd been fishing. And we put in right at day. We left the house at daylight, so we put in, and it was middle of summer, super hot, like August, end of August. We went and put in, got there early, and we're paddling. I'm in the front of the boat, and he made me sit down and cast and stuff because he'd stand up on the back of the boat and push us around with a stick. And like I said, whenever we go do stuff like that, like we wouldn't be out there making tons of noise and stuff. We were slipping around trying to snake hunt and fish, multitasking. So we get back off through there. I say it was a couple of hours, and I remember it just being really quiet. And a lot of times on hot summer days, there's no wind. It's just real still. And I remember, I just remember noticing that it was just quiet, and we were fishing along through there, and we started hearing this. It sounded to me like me and Daddy talked about then. It sounded like ducks splashing the water up on them. How they ruffle with their wings in the water and soak themselves, like cleaning their feathers off.
Yeah.
It kind of sounded like that. We both, that's what we thought it was, and. But Daddy, of course, us, we wanted to at least see them, or see what it was, so not just going straight after it, but and telling the story. He was pushing us, but he was pushing us towards it. And like we're fishing and fishing and fishing. And then, the closer we get, Daddy's like, it's time to put your fishing rod down, which he didn't have to say that, it was just, about when we got that close to it, we both kind of put our fishing rods down, and easing up through there. And like in that swamp, it's like got buckbrush all in it. It's like 3 or 4 foot tall off of the water. And you're going around these little paths and stuff, and getting in all these little open slough areas and fishing. So I was sitting in the bottom boat looking back up at him because I'm all stuck off in that buckbrush and I can't see, because he's cutting across all them little paths and going straight through the brush, straight towards it. So he's easing us through there. So like I said, I'm looking at him mostly, reading his actions, and waiting until we get close enough to, to start trying to see it. And I'll never forget. I'm looking forward to trying to see, if I can see through the stuff, and stuff. And then I'll look back at him because I know he can see a lot better. And I'm just going back and forth. And the noise had quit. And I looked at Daddy, like when the noise quit, pretty much I thought that it might have caught it, saw us or spooked it, or something like it, and most of the time he'd get mad if I scared something off that we could shoot, or something. So my first reaction was just like, oh crap. And I just looked back up at him like real quick, like, oh, like I didn't do nothing. And he looked, the look on his face was just like, he was still, he just was dead still. And he was just staring off, and I knew he saw something. And in saying that, I knew it wasn't, it was just so, it wasn't if it had been something that we could have shot at or something, he wouldn't have just be stuck on it. He'd be, it'd be like motioning or, drawing or doing something. He was just froze. Mm. And I looked back forward, and by the time I looked back forward, all I could see, and like I said, I'm not going to add any to this. All I could physically see from where my position was, like I said, I looked back and I saw my dad's reaction, and I looked back to in front of us, and the brush just about 50 or 70 yards away, the brush, all that buckbrush just started moving. And it wasn't like you couldn't hear a bunch of like limbs breaking. It just started moving, like parting, like something was pushing through it. And you could see like a V wave off of it. And, like I told you the other night when I was talking to you, it wasn't like something struggling and there was no sloshing. It was just, in an instance, the brush started moving and like a V, like that big wave. Yeah. And I looked back up at Daddy, and Daddy had hurried up and gave us a couple of pushes towards it where we could get out of that all the buckbrush, into a little open, better view. And when we busted out that view, I'll never forget, I looked back up at him, and he's just in shock. And and I'm like, what is it? And he had stopped. He just stopped, like we were going gung-ho at this thing, and then he just froze again. And I'm like at this point in time, I'm like mad. I'm like, what the crap? Let's get me close enough, because telling some things about that is like, in my head, I figured it was a wild pig, which was very common to the area, but none of us had ever killed one. And that was one that, we always wanted to. Mm-hmm. And, I didn't think much about it, as far, and Daddy he didn't elaborate on it anymore. And, and we left. Well, I didn't really put all that together until years later, as far as the severity of it. Cause like I said, he played it off and didn't bring it back up. And then years later, throughout life, I started, and I've asked him about it a couple of times, and he always told me that he thought it could have been a black bear, and it could. He said it could have been he said to him what it looked like was a cow, and it looked like a dark figure. What I saw was a dark object, and it was about 3 to 4 foot out of the water. And it was leaning forward, but it's in all that brush. So it ain't like I could see a silhouette. I could just see a dark something, pushing through through that buckbrush. But Daddy said that he could see ears and a long snout. Mm. But he said it looked like he said it was either a bear and he kept pushing more towards the bear, but he said it could have been just a cow. But the things that don't make sense about that is if, like we was talking, if it was a bear, and this goes back to where I didn't ponder on it that much until later on in life. Like if it would have been a bear or a pig or a cow, like there's no way it could have been sticking 3 or 4 foot out of the water. Right. Because that area where we went up, whenever he was pushing us, we had gotten to about where the animal had taken off from. And in that area, Daddy took that push pole and we was pushing it, and it was 3.5 to 4 foot of water, and it was 3 foot out of the water.
Right. And if it was like we were talking, if it was a bear there or a pig or a cow pushing that way, there would have been some sort of splashing or some sort of something, but it was silent.
Exactly. And another thing is, like, throughout them years, I've chased wild hogs across swamps and shot them. I've realistically saved drowning cows from the Tennessee River down here when it flooded a couple of years back. I mean, I have physically witnessed all of coyotes swimming across the water. I've witnessed everything like that, and this wasn't that.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where, I can't speculate on the story. I can only tell you exactly that right. I saw what I saw, and I know he saw something, and what he saw, he won't elaborate on that much, but later on he did, but I'll get to that in a minute. But, there was no noise, and it was at least 3 foot out of the water.
Right.
And it was leaning forward at about a 30-degree angle. Well, about a month ago, like I had been, I've researched a lot of other stories and stuff after making sense of it and, trying to make sense of it. And I went to him about a month ago, and I took him out to eat, and I talked to him. I said, I want to know what happened that day. And he said, well, Clint, he's like, I can't tell you that, he said, I can't tell you what I think it was, because the way he looks at it is he thinks it's a demon.
Right.
But he said, then he went straight back into, it looked like a cow to me. It looked like a cow. And I'm like, no, don't tell me this crap no more. We both know it can't be, there's no way physically. First off, the cow would, there's no way. There was no back to it. There was no splashing. And
first of all, would a cow, I don't think a cow, the way you described the water to me, and it was mucky at the bottom, I don't think a cow could move at that kind of speed without a splash, plus make a V.
And that goes back into all the things that throughout my life that I put the pieces together, yeah. And that's why I'm telling the stories, because it all made sense then, but until looking back on the actual situation, that animal, it couldn't have been a cow, because we didn't hear where it went. It just, all we saw was that when it took off, it was gone.
Right.
There was no crashing through the woods. There was no splashing. There was no nothing. And it was eerily quiet. And it just took straight off. It was just gone. And I've told a couple of my friends, and they've told me, it could have been somebody out there, like in waders or this. Well, first off, if you've ever tried to take off in water, standing chest deep in water, you know that you can't do it fast. And secondly, if you take off and get out of there that quick, there's no way you can do it quietly.
Right. And you're going to use your arms, and it's going to splash.
Exactly. But the thing about it is a human shape, what do you do whenever you're trying to take off in water?
Lean forward.
You lean forward at that 30-degree angle. And you're fighting your feet in the mud, so you have to lean and push forward in it to make movement, especially quickness like that. So, just every aspect of it, there's nothing that it could have been. There's no animal on this earth that it could have been as far as a game.
Right.
No way it could have been. And, like I said, I brought that back up to him, and he told me, son, you can't ponder on that. He's like, we all have our demons, and they can, you can go with it or, let it go, not ponder on it. And so that's why he never brings it up, and he won't physically say what he actually saw, but he don't have to, because we all, it is what it is.
Right. Now, I know that a big reason why you wanted to share the story is to kind of get some answers about, like you said in the beginning, satanic rituals, a lot of weird animal sacrifices in that area. What year was this around?
It would have had to been around in the early 90s. I would say 90 or 91.
Okay. All right.
And like I said, it was I mean, it happened multiple times. It was all summer long that they had it in the newspaper and stuff. Like I said, I've looked back, so I've tried to do and look back and find anything about it. And I've even asked, knowing people and being local here, I've asked and ain't really got no answers about it.
Now, I know you didn't want to share the location, but could you kind of say like north or south or Tennessee, or what would you be comfortable kind of sharing, like a roundabout location?
Well, yeah, it was right on the Mississippi-Tennessee state line, right in Hardin County.
Okay.
In the bottoms, like I said, at that point in time, we had access through the Mississippi side, but we were probably a half a mile south of the Tennessee line. And we fished our way back up towards the Tennessee state line from where we put the boat in. And that's just which way the swamp come up towards the lake, Yeah. And
so if anybody remembers like any kind of satanic rituals and stuff like that, and you got some pieces of this puzzle to share, you can email me, and then I'll let our friend know here. That way because he just wants answers. This has bothered him for a long time. So you've also had a couple of strange run-ins with something up in the North Country. Do you want to kind of get into those a little bit?
Yeah. Like like I said, I was probably about 10 when that happened. And, that goes to and say it all gets about there's so many ways to look at it, because like the evil is going to present itself into a form that makes sense to you.
Yep.
And like I said, you hear all these encounters and stuff, all these crazy sightings and stuff. And you honestly think, being like I have been, spend as much time out in the woods and on the water, as far away from anybody as you could ever get. Like I would have run into something crazy, like I said, but that was not verifiable. That was more on my dad's. I was a witness to my dad's vision what he saw on the first time I was with him. But what I saw of it didn't make no sense to me at all. Like we go up in the Northwoods hunting, and it's 61 miles deep into the woods, and love walking the back road. And I got up, it had started snowing, and, up there you want snow on the ground where you can see and you can track and stuff. Well, we got up that morning, and it's probably 2 or 3 inches of snow on the ground.
Real quick, not to confuse anybody, because you might confuse people. You're not in Tennessee anymore. No,
this is in northern Maine.
Okay. All right.
And this is literally about 5 miles from the Canadian border.
Yeah, so you're deep.
Yes. And we go up there, and like I said, we got up that morning and went hunt. Well, my buddy, when you come out of our little camping where we camp, the road, it come to like a more main road. No traffic really, but that was the main road. And then you could go right or left. And then off of them roads, there was tons of other little just dead end roads, and little where they loaded lumber. Just tons of area to stalk around in and hunt. So what we'd do is we'd get up, and he'd go one way, and I'd go the other way. Well, we left and went hunting, and I started going up. I was hunting everything on the left-hand side of the road going up, and hit the first road, and come back out or started going down it. And I walked to about dinner time, and about halfway through the day, and I'd stop and eat, and then you'd have to turn around to come back to have time to make it back to camp before dark. And I stopped and ate, and I took one of the little side trails and stuff and walked out to a little opening or something where I could stop and eat. Well, I got back up and was headed back. And when I got to the main road, I looked down the road where I'd come up the left-hand side of the road. And on the other side of the road, like there's probably, a little space about 300 or 400 yards from where I saw something in the snow on the opposite side of the road. And like I said, the first thing I thought was it was a deer. I figured, because I had a deer scent on me, and I was stalking around. I figured it just picked up on that deer scent and my tracks, and was thinking I was, and it was following my tracks. Well, I went straight into hunt mode. So, so I just started creeping up to them. Well, when I got up to them, I noticed like they didn't go nowhere. Like they just stopped in the middle of the road. I mean, and I didn't, like I was telling you earlier, I didn't really think much about it. I just went straight into, I was in hunt mode. So I figured he was right there. He's somewhere, he juked off the side of the road or something. He's right on top of me. Well, the closer I get, I noticed that it was wolf tracks. Well, I wasn't scared or, wasn't nothing like on that realm. I actually was more excited. I wanted to kill it even more. So I was like an extreme gung-ho. And I started, I was looking. Well, I wanted to, I followed followed his tracks back from where he come, because I figured he would have backtracked or something, because he juked off the road. So I just went back to hunting his tracks backwards and headed back to the camp. And I followed him all the way back down to where the first road that I had left, when I'd left camp, the first side road that I'd went down, he had come out of it. Well, in doing all that, I noticed, like in my snow, like the deeper the snow got that day, like my knees started hurting. And I started dragging my left foot in the snow. Like I could see it real bad in the tracks when I first turned around. And like you could see the progression of it getting not as bad, in reverse going back to the campsite. So I'd already picked up on that. And I was like, well, crap, that thing was hunting me, Right. He thought I was a wounded deer. He smelled that doe pee on me or whatever and saw the tracks with a gimp. And, coyotes and stuff, they hunt like that. So I was like, I thought he was a cow, I thought he would just hunt me. No biggie. Still wasn't scared. So I went to the camp, ate, and stuff, told my buddy what happened. And he didn't think too big of a deal of it, he was, of course, everybody's worried the wolf's a wolf, but there was no scared and, nothing like that. So with all that snow being on the ground, the next day I was like so gung-ho. I wanted to get up early, I wanted more time to spend tracking. So I got up an hour early, an hour before daylight, and left my campsite. Well, it was a bright moon night, and, out in the snow and stuff out in the night with the moon, you can see real good. And I'm walking back up that it's probably quarter of a mile, maybe not quite that far, but back to the main road. And I look up and I notice like something real strange in my trail from where we walked back the night before. And it just stuck out. It was like bold. And so I just went straight. You could tell it was some type of tracks. So I start walking up through there, and the closer I get, I'm looking, and it's like a deep trail, like a wide, deep trail. And when I got up to it, it was physically where a wolf had paced back and forth. It looked like for freaking hours. It was just a straight line, straight melted track. You know what I mean? And so I went straight back into, oh my goodness, I didn't really freak out. I didn't freak out any. I was just straight back into, oh my goodness, I'm going to get to kill a wolf mode. And I go back to, take that road, and I go back at it, and I want to go as far as I can, get where I lost that coyote or the wolf the night before, the tracks. I wanted to get back to him and see where he went. So I'm hunting back down that road, and I get all the way to them tracks. And them tracks, even the second day, they didn't go nowhere. There was nowhere I could find a single track from where it just stopped, right where I stopped to take lunch, a little bit down the road. It just completely vanished. So, The only place for it to have gone, like we said earlier, would have been, it would have had to jump 15 to 20 feet completely sideways to get off the road to not make a track from where it went.
Yeah. That's insane. Literally, we sat here for probably an hour shooting the breeze before doing this interview, and this wolf was straight. You have to imagine the power or the coordination for anything to have to be able to jump that way is unbelievable. And it's insanity. And then, of course, like you said, there had been some vehicles that came down later through the day and ruined the tracks.
Yeah, well, whenever I got to the other end of things again, and when like I said, I was never scared or nothing until I got to the dead end tracks, and there was the animal didn't go nowhere, and then that just didn't make sense to me. And then you start thinking about other things about it. Is like, I know it is very possible that a wolf paced, there at the campsite, but on another aspect of that is, was that really just a wolf that just, why? That's still, it was evident we were human. It was evident, unless he just thought with a doe pee that a hunter had to kill, a deer at the campsite or something of that nature.
Right.
Whatever it was doing, it was wanting to come into camp. It was speculating, it was hesitating.
Yeah. And you've been hunting the majority of your life, and that is not something that I don't think a normal. I think, it may pace, but not that close. Would you say a wolf would, or even a coyote would pace that close to camp? I'd think it'd be further away, in
all truth, yeah. That part of it to me don't seem that far-fetched about it being that close, because especially at night like that.
Okay.
But not taken from it. Just making, trying to make sense of it to me, yeah. But that goes back into the canine factor of it. That's what they do, They sit there and smell. They'll sit there and smell for hours, watching bait. They just, a lot of times they don't come straight, that's why they're so hard to kill and stuff.
Right.
They're a very intelligent animal.
You've also had, I don't know if you're comfortable with sharing the one, I think this one was after the winter hunt, or no?
No, this one was before that one.
Okay.
That my first time of any type of dog encounter like that was, like I said, when I was with my dad when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And then the second one will be this one. Is I was hunting here in same area, right on the Mississippi line over here, and it's real hilly. And this goes back into a lot of the other, after researching all this stuff, like so many of things on all them stories that I listen to don't seem real to me, but a lot of it just like hit home. A lot of it just, it's all the same. Like, I thought, I've heard stories of people talking about the smell and, feelings, it make you have like different, that type of stuff. But this makes no sense at all either. Like I said, it wasn't like I went out first time of the year and did this. Like I did this every day.
Right.
I went out hunting, and like I was telling you earlier, like I would walk them old logging roads and trails and stuff. Well, I have, everybody's got their pattern. Well, that day I went reverse of what I always walk. And I went down through there and I dropped off in one of the hollers, and I got down to the bottom of the holler, and I've never had this happen to me since. Like my hamstrings completely locked up. And it locked up so bad that, instantly, like I'm literally a grown man, and I went to tears that my legs was hurting so bad. And it was such a pain, and it was constant. Mm. And, I tried to I was down in that holler, down in the washed out part of the very bottom of the holler. So I kind of just leaned up against, I got my leaned back, eased up against the bank, which wouldn't be sitting down because, I'm down in the little creek bed. And I'm sitting there, and then it hit me. I was like, I'm soaking wet, and it's freezing temperatures, and nobody knows where I'm at. No cell phone service. All this stuff starts going through my head. So I'm like, holy crap, I've got to get out of here. And it was like, worst case scenario, I've got to at least make it to the top of the ridge where I can get cell phone service to call somebody, to come. Because, that's how serious the pain was. Like, it was everything I could do to stiff leg walk, and and then picture being down in the bottoms and stuff. So you can only imagine. It took me forever, and I finally got all the way up to the top of the hill. Well, at the top of the hill, there's like we were talking about all the little logging roads. This thing, it was overgrown, and they all come down to like a little 30-yard circle where they loaded the trucks. But by now, it's all like growed up in real thick grass and underbrush, and there's always like a lot of cedar trees, head-high cedar trees in them little areas. It's like a little bedding area for animals. But it's where they loaded them trucks years prior from where they clear cut all that land. Well, I got up to that, and I got my backpack. I got up there, and like I said, I'm still in excruciating pain. And I got my backpack off, and I was like, well, I've made it now. I'm not going to call one of my buddies and act like a damn idiot and get somebody to come all the way out here to get me because my legs are hurting. How do you really explain that?
Right.
But anyways, I had made it to the top of the hill, and I knew that the roads was only going to get better, and I wasn't that far from the truck. But it was getting pretty dusky dark, and in them pine trees, it was already real dark because it was storming. And I stopped there in that little cul-de-sac, and I rested, and I ate me a snack, took my backpack off, ate me a snack. I stopped and I smoked a cigarette and got my composure back, and I was like, well, I've got to get going again, So I get back up on my feet, and I made about 2 or 3 steps. And like I said, I'm looking straight down, holding my head, just holding my legs with my hand, they were just solid, stiff, cramping. And I heard a single bark. And it was so loud. It was just right on top of me, that loud, like not far-fetched loud, just like one single bark. And the first thing I did was I just, lifted my head straight up and looked. Well, straight up from the road where I was walking, it went up about 20 or 30 yards, and then it dog left up and to the left because we're still kind of going uphill. Well, and this is like a 5-7 foot wide 4-wheeler trail, and it's real thick, overgrown all around it. I look up, and I saw, at first, my first thoughts was coyote. A coyote standing broadsided in the road up there right where the road curved back. So the first thing, I had my gun carried at the ready. First thing I did is I just threw up and flicked the safety off. And about the time he cleared up in the scope and I was about to pull the trigger, he looked back over his shoulder. Like he looked behind him. And when he looked behind him, he come clear in the scope, I was like, I just automatically threw my gun down back to my side and threw the safety on, just like you would. I pulled the barrel off of him as quick as possible because what popped in my mind was Akita. And when he looked back over him, I was like, oh my God, somebody's walking their damn dog. Because like I told you earlier, I ran into a couple instances out in the woods where somebody's doing something crazy off the wall that never makes sense like that.
Right.
So the first thing I did was just drop my rifle and flick the safety off. And I looked back up, and about the time I look back up, I realized that it's no Akita. And like I showed you in the picture I sent you, I've killed a gray wolf here in the same area.
Yeah.
So just like as quick as I threw on him and I pulled the gun down, as soon as that I made sense, I was like, hey, stupid, that's a damn wolf. And I flicked the safety off and threw up, and he darted off the road. And just gone. So I didn't get a shot on him, but it was a humongous wolf.
Right. Now, here's something I really had a great time talking with you prior, and I really I really rationalize and your view of how you view what these things are. You'd made a statement like, if these were demons, dogmen are possibly demons or are demons and evil. Now, you said to me, if this thing was 13 feet or 9 feet, you would have shot. But what a demon will do is to kind of put it into perspective of what you wouldn't be afraid of or something, And,
well, that's basically why I wanted to share. I mean, everybody, you hear tons of stories of encounter stuff, but that's what made me wanted to share mine, was to figure, because that, like I'm telling the story, like, it's like it was a progression of my life of trying to put the pieces together.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I knew earlier on, like I said, I've questioned my dad about that scenario a couple of times, especially, when I was younger and stuff. There was a couple of, I was like, dang, Dad, that's probably a pig. And, I missed out on it, stuff. He would never bring it up. Never talk about it. He just went straight to, hey, it was a cow, or I think it might have been a bear, just blew it completely off. But, I started looking to stories, and, I started studying all these missing person and all these encounters across America. And then you go back in throughout the times. These stories go back from, since the beginning of time. There's always been, that type stories, devil, demonish encounters. But that, like we were talking about, and that's like telling a story, that demons live among us. They, God cast them out on this earth till he comes back. And, like we was talking earlier, the closer to the end of times, the more in your face, the more it's going to start happening, the more less, what's the word I'm looking for? Where, it's, just like we was talking earlier about not being provable, but just so many more, like all these bodies coming up mutilated.
Yeah.
It's just, and with no answers is what I'm getting at. Like that. With today's technology, and just like we simply put facts together on things, you can't leave a murder case open without, it just they just don't make no sense.
Right. Like you and I were talking about the case in Tennessee just recently. There was 2 bodies found, one a year prior, and with DNA and this and that, and they're saying unknown animal, but with DNA and the technology that we have, they should not be unable to solve these cases, Well,
and it goes back to like my stories and like going through, things happen and they happen quickly, and you're pretty much everything in life you're told what to believe, and you go with you just go with common first speculation, what you're told. You don't ponder, but a lot of things that get to you ponder on, and when you put all the pieces together, it's just like where we're at now with this. It's like there is no other word for it. It's pure Satan. It's demons on this earth, and they're gonna, like we was talking, they're gonna come to each person in their own form or fashion, whatever is believable to them.
Yes.
And that goes back to why Diddy kept saying, don't don't keep your mind on it and don't speculate, because, hey, I think anybody can turn that wolf encounter that I had into the woods into a monstrous wolf trying to kill them scenario. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it not discredited them, but I'm just saying their mentality, they might let their head go that far. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And like I said, that demon or spirit is going to present itself in whatever you let it.
Yeah.
And, and that goes back to the human, like we was talking about these all being like, ape type, reptile like, wolf type, bird type. It's all, and that goes back from the Egyptians. And, since demons have been on this earth, they all project themselves as something special, something different, something that stands out, and that's why I think that, you have all these multiple type sightings and, in different, in the different entities.
Yeah, whatever we perceive them as.
Yes, like in my life, it just happens to be that's wolf type thing. I think is just the most realist, most believable to me thing that it could be without going to far fetched.
Right, and it makes a lot of sense because in your email when you reached out to me or through Messenger or whatever, you had said, "Listen, I've shot a wolf. My dad shot a huge wolf in the 70s, and it would make sense that these demons would perceive them or have you, show themselves as what you automatically see in the woods all the time, and like you said, that one when it was standing up on that cul-de-sac area in the woods and it looked over its shoulders, there was more with it. It wasn't just by itself.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's terrifying. I mean, and it's, I really enjoyed, I enjoyed our conversation prior. I've enjoyed having you on. I value everybody's views because I think that's how we can really kind of solve what the heck is going on and kind of get an answer because, there's just it's in your face right now. It's in our face. And it's like you said, at the end of times, that's what's going to happen. It's going to get pushed in our faces. And with the attacks in Virginia, I mean, there's not a day that goes by that there's not something coming up.
Well, it's going to be more. It's going to be more pronounced evil.
Yeah.
And so that's why you're getting so many more encounters, and there's so much more, crazy. I think that's why we're starting to see so many more public mutilations.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just like the people that was mutilated up here by them. I mean, Lord, the people they had the animals that supposedly did it. And I mean, I know from being a hunter and, listening to that type of stuff my whole life. I mean, there's tons of bear cases, tons of even up north wolf and coyote cases where people have really gotten killed by these animals. But they have, on their scenarios, they went as far as to find which bear did it via their teeth pattern.
Yeah.
Their bite marks and all this. But yet these cops down here with the dogs in hand, with DNA and all this testing, they're still saying, hey, it was canine.
Yeah.
They're not saying, hey, it was these dogs.
Yeah, they're being very broad with it. And you're right. You're absolutely right. Because in Colorado, the woman who had gotten bit by a bear, they actually did. There was a bite wound on her. And it was a bear wound, but there was other wounds on her as well. But they matched those teeth marks to that bear, and then they euthanized that bear. It's not, with the amount of technology that we have nowadays, it's not hard. And to leave us wondering all the time what the heck is going on is real not right at all. It's very, very not cool for the local government, state and federal, to do that, especially when they could just say, they don't even have to even say anything. They could just leave it quiet.
Well, I think that goes to the whole moral of this story, is because, I mean, they're not ever going to say is, hey, a demon killed this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not ever going to say that, because then the hat's out of the bag. And like I told you, at that point, there's still a lot of humanity left that believe in God and stuff and know that are going to combat in that.
Right. Which
will be a losing agenda for that. That would be the end. So he wants to turn everybody on earth. So it's just like, it's a progression. It's just going to get more in your face, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And
absolutely. Well, my friend, we're coming up on time. Do me a favor, don't hang up after I end the interview. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the audience before we end the interview?
No, I believe that's it. I just wanted to, tell what
I appreciate you coming on, and honestly, it's been a great couple of hours just shooting the breeze with you. So thank you. And there you have it, folks. I do hope you all enjoyed this early morning, middle of the night bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. After all, it is your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.